Welcome to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. Today I was in Mark chapters 4 and 5. Now, chapter 4 starts out with the story of the seed being sown on different types of soil. And so basically, everyone receives or hears the word differently and acts on it. So here you have seed that is thrown on a path, but it quickly goes away. So Satan comes in and he takes it away. So the seed is the word, and whether you receive it or not. And so when it's thrown on the path, it says that the birds come and eat it. And this is talking about how Satan just comes in and he just takes the word right out where you aren't receiving it. And then you have the seed that's thrown on the rocky ground. And immediately you receive it with joy and excitement. But when hard times come, the seed gets torched from the sun and those tribulations happen and it's just gone. You've, no longer are walking in the word or listening, believing. You've just allowed the circumstances of the world to just come in and mess your faith up. Then you have the thorns, and that's the ones that hear the word, but the world is too enticing. You hear that it's good and it sounds good, but the world to you looks better, and you don't want to give up your worldly things for the Lord. For what you're hearing, the word, the seed that's being sown, you're not wanting to receive that. And then you have the good soil. And those are the people that hear the word of God, accept it, and then bear much fruit, because they are hearing the word and letting the word seep into their heart and change and transform them. So the question for you today is, where are you? Have you heard the word? Did you receive the word? Are you allowing it to bear much fruit in your life? Or did you hear the word, got excited, loved it, but then you let the world just come in and destroy that? Or did you hear it? It sounded good, but the world sounded way better, so you went that route. Or you just never received it at all. The word was thrown out there and it didn't touch you, speak to you, or anything. So that's a good gauge to see where you're at. And then we get into, how I like to look at it is, are you being a good steward? And this doesn't have to be money. This is your talents, the gifts that God has given you, your time, relationships. Like, what are you doing with your life? And to me, this was an example of how God will bless you with more when you do well with what He's already given you. And if you don't do anything with what the Lord has given you, even what you do have will be taken away. So I just think that we always have to gauge ourselves. Like, what are we doing with the life that God has given us? And then it was talking about the lamp and putting it under a basket. And we are the light of the world. We are image bearers of Christ, and we are to shine brightly, shine for the world to see, not to be hidden, but to shine brightly, to share with the world the love of God, what He's done in our life, what He's doing in our life, just all the goodness that He is through us. Let that shine. Let His glory shine. Like, we should be shining so bright that everyone can see and want what we have. And trust that everything will be known in its timing. Sometimes we get frustrated because we can't see what God is trying to do in our lives. But that's where we need to trust. Trust that the Lord is good, know that He is good, and that He is working everything out in our lives for His glory and our good. And then we get into the boat situation where the storm comes. Jesus is in the boat. The disciples are all freaking out. because it's like Jesus is in the boat with you. You're not going to perish. If you perish, what happens with Jesus, right? And Jesus isn't going to allow that. I mean, not that Jesus would die, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like he's in the boat. So at this point, they clearly, after all that they've seen Jesus do, they still do not fully understand who Jesus is, because they wake him up, he calms the storm, and they're like, oh my gosh, who is this that even the storm obeys him? I just think that's kind of cool. So the question is Jesus in the boat with you? If so, stay calm. Stay calm, because he has got this. You know that song, Jesus Take the Wheel? Jesus is in the driver's seat and you are the passenger, and you just keep going where he goes and you'll be okay. Storms will come, but he'll calm them, when you can trust in him. So then we get into chapter 5, and this is the one where the demon-possessed man, they get to this one place, and as soon as Jesus gets off the boat, this demon-possessed man who is possessed by a multitude. So he's possessed by the name of Legion, which is many. And he's begging Jesus, don't do anything. We don't cast us out. In other words, they don't want to be cast out into nothing. They want to go at least into something else. So go into the pigs, and because they need another host. And so Jesus, cast Legion out into the pigs, and it says there was 2,000 of them that ran and drowned themselves in the sea, which tells me that Legion must have been 2,000, for them to all inhabit 2,000 pigs. I'm thinking one for each pig, but I don't know, maybe not. Could have been even more. Had to have been at least 2,000 though. So anyway, then we get into, and that guy, after he was delivered, Jesus, he wanted to follow Jesus, but Jesus was like, nope, he didn't allow him to. He says, go home to your friends and tell them what the Lord has done for you, how he's had mercy on you. And I just think about, for one, Jesus didn't want him to follow him, probably because, he needed to go and be with his family and tell them all what had been done, because he's a witness to them. He's a witness to what all Jesus has done. So, we should go and tell people of what Jesus has done in our life, the miraculous things, the healing, anything that he's done in our life. And he's done so much for all of us. I mean, dying on the cross was enough. But go and tell people of all that he's done, even if it's just dying on the cross at this point. That is enough for all of us. But then I think about how, not everyone is ready when they've experienced a healing to follow Jesus. Sometimes, and Jesus would have known, because the Father is with him and in the Spirit and speaking to him. So he would have known whether this is somebody that was truly ready to serve, not just be served or be healed, right? Sometimes we want the healing, we want the things that Jesus will do for us, but we're not ready to surrender our lives to him and be obedient to him. And so by having mercy on him, it's like, I'm having mercy on you. I'm giving you a gift by healing you of this, by casting out these demons. But that doesn't mean that this person was ready to surrender their life and serve Jesus, even though he said, that he wanted to follow him, that Jesus knew where he was coming from. And I think maybe that's why he was like, no, go home to your friends and your family and tell them all that has been done for you. And then we get into where Jairus, he's a ruler of the synagogue, and he sees Jesus, and his daughter is sick and about to die, and he is wanting him to come and heal his daughter. And so Jesus is on his way to do that when all of a sudden in the crowds, a lady who has been bleeding for 12 years has spent all she has on trying to get healing and doctors, and is worse than she was. And, if you've been bleeding, you can't go into the temple. You can't be out amongst people because you're considered clean. So you always had to stay isolated. So I can't even imagine how this woman has felt for 12 years. And she hears that Jesus is coming. And so she thinks to herself, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. So which is great faith, great faith in believing that even if you push through, because see, this is the thing. She's got to push through being unclean first to get to him, which isn't that a picture of all of us? We are unclean and we push through to reach Jesus, to be touched by Jesus. And then when she touches the hem of his garment, she is immediately cleaned. She no more has the bleeding disorder. And Jesus felt the power come from him to her. Even though everybody else is touching him, she was the one of great faith that reached out and touched him. And that is why she was healed, because of her faith. All these other people touching him aren't of faith. But she, because of her faith, she was healed. And Jesus stopped and spoke to her and recognized her and told her to go in peace and be healed of your disease. And this was all because of her faith. So just remember that. We come to Jesus unclean, filthy, dirty, sinful. We come to Jesus and he heals us. He gives us mercy. He gives us peace. He heals us of our diseases and makes us clean, makes us white as snow when we surrender our life to him and reach out and touch the hem of his garment. Now, at this point, he's still on his way to the little girl that's also 12 years old, which is interesting because you have the woman that's been bleeding for 12 years, and then you have this little girl that's 12 years old. And the people run out and say, don't bother, Jesus, your daughter's already dead. And Jesus is like, nope, still take me to the daughter. She's not dead. She's just sleeping. And I just think about how, I know this is kind of crazy, but I relate that to, us when we as Christians take our last breath. We're not dead. We're just asleep. We just go to sleep until the Lord comes and takes us, or goes ahead and once we are absent from the bodies to be present from the Lord. However you think that whole thing happens once we die. I think once we die, we do go to a spiritual realm or heaven, which heaven is the spiritual realm. So I think we do go there. I think before Christ came, maybe they didn't. And maybe that's why when Jesus died on the cross, it said dead people started walking out of the tombs. I don't know. Just always something to think about. But anyway, so he goes into the little girl and he speaks to her and he takes her hand and he says, little girl, I say to you, arise. And she immediately got up and began walking. I love that. Immediately. You see immediately all the time. And I just love it. Every time I see it, I have to underline it. And he told the family no one should know this and warned them not to say anything to anyone. And I got to thinking, sometimes God tells us to do things that we don't understand, but we are to trust and obey and know that what he is saying is true and right and good. And it doesn't matter if we understand it or not. We're still to obey. No matter what, trust and obey because he is good and he is faithful. Thank you for listening to Everyday Lessons in the Bible. I hope you have a blessed day. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.